The Orion Pact was supposed to be the strongest force in the galaxy. An alliance of 12 alien empires united by a single goal: survival. For 100 years, they held the Outer Rim against pirates, invaders, and even each other. Believed nothing could threaten them, until the machine swarm came. No one knew where the swarm came from. It was a storm of metal and code, rolling across star systems, devouring everything in its path. Their ships had no crew. Their soldiers had no fear. They didn't talk. They didn't stop. They didn't die, at least, not easily. The swarm didn't conquer, it erased. World after world fell. Armadas of thousands of ships vanished into silence. Fortresses burned. Millions died. Billions. The Orion Pact threw everything they had at the swarm, and still, it wasn't enough. Now, the last fleet of the Orion Pact stood at the edge of extinction. On the command deck of the Varkal's Pride, Supreme Commander, Zur watched the battle unfold. His tall, scaled form trembled. His golden eyes locked on the screens. Another Orion fleet, 40 warships, was being torn apart. Swarm ships, black as night, swarmed over them like a living cloud. Red beams cut across the void. Explosions blossomed in slow motion. Yours second in command. A short, spiny creature named Grell spoke in a hoarse whisper. "They're gone, Commander. The Thalan fleet is gone." Zur swallowed hard. "That was our last defense for the Arkan worlds. Their home worlds will fall within hours." Zur stared into the cold abyss beyond the viewport. "We need options." But in his heart he knew there were none. The Council of Elders met in secret, steep beneath the surface of the Council world. 12 leaders sat around a long black table, their faces grim. Some wore golden crowns. Others bore symbols of war or peace. None smiled. Zur stood before them, his armor still scorched from battle. "The swarm is at our door," he said, voice steady but cold. "We have no fleets left. If we do nothing, they will erase us from the stars within weeks." High Elder Sonera, a tall, pale being with eyes like black glass, folded her hands. "We have fought, we have bled, now perhaps we must surrender." Murmurs filled the room. A few nodded. "Better to kneel," another elder hissed, "than to die screaming." Zur's fist slammed against the table. "Kneel, 2 machines. They will not accept surrender, or they will not stop until we are ash and ruin." Silence. Then a voice spoke from the shadows. Low, calm. "There's another way." Heads turned. It was Commander Kale, the rogue officer, known for reckless ideas. His violet skin shimmered faintly in the dark. Zur narrowed his eyes. "Kale, you are not a council member. You have no right to speak here." Kale stepped forward anyway. "You said we need options. I'm giving you one." Sonera sighed. "We have no fleets, no allies, no hope." "What option do you speak of?" Kale's eyes burned like twin suns. "The humans." A ripple ran through the council. "Humans," one elder scoffed. "Myth, ghosts of an old war, legends," spat another. "Stories told to frighten hatchlings." Zur glared at Kale. "You would have us chase shadows when death is at our door." Kale stood tall. "They are not myths. They are real. I've seen them." A cold hush filled the chamber. "You seen them?" Naira asked. Kale nodded. "Years ago, on the edge of Orion space, single human warship, they destroyed a pirate armada in minutes. Then they vanished." "You are mad. I speak truth. Humans didn't vanish. They disappeared on purpose. They left this galaxy. But they are still out there, waiting, watching." Zur crossed his arms. "Even if this is true, why would they help us?" Kale's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because if the swarm destroys us, they will come for the humans next." Council argued for hours. Some called Kale a fool. Others called him a liar. But in the end, fear won. They agreed. With one warning, High Elder Sonera leaned forward, her voice sharp as a blade. "Humans do not fight for free. They are not saviors. They are something else. We summon them. We invite a force we may never control. Kale met her gaze. Would you rather face the swarm alone? Silence answered him. The decision was made, in the cold dark of space. The fastest courier ship in the Orion fleet launched from the Council world. Kale stood on its deck, staring at the stars. Beside him, Captain Rao, a lean, bird-like alien with sharp eyes, spoke quietly. Are you sure about this? If the legends are true, we may be calling monsters to save us from monsters. Kale didn't blink. Hope is dead. Need something worse than hope. Rao nodded slowly. Where do we even begin? Kale gazed into the endless dark. We head to the edge of known space. Past the dead zones. Past the graveyards of lost empires. Where Earth vanished. Centuries ago, the engines roared to life, and the ship vanished into the void. Days turned into weeks. They passed wrecked worlds, dead systems, silent battlefields. No life, no light. Only the echoes of wars long forgotten. Rao grew uneasy. We are alone out here. Kale stared into the black. No, we are being watched then. They found it, at the edge of the galaxy, a shadow hung in space. It wasn't a planet, it wasn't a ship, it was a fortress. Black steel, endless guns. It's silent and massive, and floating before it. A single warship. Sleek, deadly, unlike any design Kale had ever seen. Their scanners couldn't read it. Their sensors failed. Then the warship moved. A voice crackled over the comms, calm, deep, human. You are far from home. Orion vessel. State your purpose. Kale felt his heart slam in his chest. This was it. He took the comm. We seek the humans. We bring a message from the Orion Pact. We ask for your help. There was a long silence. Then the voice spoke again. We've been expecting you. On the bridge of the human warship, Captain Darius Rourke smiled as he ended the transmission. He turned to his crew, men and women of Earth, watching with sharp eyes. Looks like it's time. They nodded. No fear. No doubts. Rourke leaned back in his chair. Let's see if the galaxy still remembers. Why they feared humans. The stars were silent till the humans spoke. Commander Kale stood on the bridge of the Orion envoy ship, staring at the giant black warship ahead. It floated like a dead moon, quiet and still, yet something about it felt alive. His voice trembled as he whispered to Captain Rao, "This is it." The stories were true. Signal crackled through the ship's speakers, calm, deep, in perfect Orion language. You are far from home, Orion vessel. State your purpose. Captain Rao swallowed hard. They know who we are. Kale stepped forward, pressing the comm. We come from the Orion Pact. Our alliance is dying. The machine swarm is wiping out everything. We ask for help. A long pause followed. Then the reply came. We've been expecting you, the human ship. Powered up. Not with lights or noise, but with quiet menace. Its hull shifted, revealing weapons Kale had never imagined. It's not sleek like Orion tech. Brutal, heavy, ready for war. Rao's feathers twitched. That ship, it's not built to fly. It's built to conquer. Kale didn't answer. He was still staring ahead and thinking, what have we done? A docking signal flashed across their screen. Humans were inviting them aboard. Kale and Rao looked at each other. Do we trust them? Rao asked. Kale gave a slow nod. We've come too far to turn back. They boarded a small shuttle and flew toward the giant human warship. As they approached, they passed strange black drones patrolling the ship's surface. The Orion scanners couldn't read them. They had no visible engines. Yet they hovered, watched, followed. Rao gripped the side of his seat. I've seen war. I've seen death. But this feels like something worse. The shuttle docked. The airlock opened with a hiss. Kale stepped out first. What he saw made him stop cold. Humans, tall, armored, cold eyes, scarred faces, no greetings, no smiles, just a line of soldiers standing at attention. At the end of the hall stood a man in black armor, Captain Darius Rourke. He stepped forward slowly, nodding once. "Welcome aboard the Vindicator." Kale bowed slightly. "Commander Kale of the Orion Pact. This is Captain Ral." Ral gave a nervous chirp. Rourke didn't smile. He studied them. Both like weapons he hadn't decided whether to use or destroy. "You've come asking for help," Rourke said. "You're too late." Kale blinked. "What do you mean?" Rourke turned and began walking. "Come, we'll talk in the war room." The war room of the Vindicator was more like a command cathedral. Dim lights, holograms of the galaxy, projected battle simulations, all showing defeat. Kale watched as planets turned red. Stars flickered out. "We've been watching your war." "For years," Rourke said. "We saw the machine swarm rise. We knew it would come to this." "Then why didn't you stop it?" Kale demanded. Rourke's face hardened. "Because the galaxy forgot us. Banished us. Hunted us." He tapped the table. A file opened. Videos, audio, images, old footage of humans being hunted by alien fleets. Human colonies burning. Treaties signed against Earth's expansion. Kale felt shame crawl across his skin. "That was before my time," he said quietly. "But not before ours," Rourke replied. "Earth didn't vanish. We walked away. Because we learned something terrible." Rourke looked him dead in the eyes. "Peace is a lie in this galaxy. Only strength survives." Kale swallowed. "We don't ask for peace. We ask for war." A silence hung heavy in the room. Rourke turned away, staring at the swirling holograms of dying systems. "You don't understand what you're asking. Humans don't fight to protect. We fight to win. And we never fight alone." Kale frowned. "What does that mean?" Rourke pressed a control. A hologram appeared beside him. It showed dozens of other human ships, different shapes, sizes, all hidden across the galaxy. Cloaked in silence, Rao gasped. "You've been building a secret." Fleet, Rourke nodded. "We knew this day would come." High Elder Sanira paced in the darkness. The swarm had reached the inner colonies. Communications were breaking down. Panic spread like fire. She turned to Zur. "They've been gone too long. Maybe the humans aren't real after all." Zur stared at the stars. "Or maybe we were never ready to meet them." Kale sat across from Rourke in a quiet chamber. Rourke held a datapad. "This is our price." Kale read the screen. He blinked. "Unlimited access to Orion star docks. Full command authority over allied fleets. Resource rights to all retaken systems. Immunity. For all human forces." He looked up. "You want everything?" Rourke didn't flinch. "We don't want to save your galaxy. We want to shape it." Kale stared at him. "And if we refuse?" "You won't, because we're the only ones left who can fight the swarm and win." Ral stepped forward. "Happens after the war?" Rourke's eyes glinted. "It depends on how much you resist us." Human generals gather. Battleship captains log in from deep space. Each speaks with calm precision. Operation Iron Dawn is go. Fleet movements authorized. Activate sleeper cells in Orion space. Prepare for total galactic engagement. The humans had not been idle. They had prepared for war, not just against the swarm, but for what would come after. Dominion. Kale and Ral sit in silence. Kale holds the signed contract. Ral says, "We gave them everything." Kale closes his eyes. "We didn't have a choice." Ral leans forward. "Are they going to save us?" Kale whispers. "I think they will, but they're not doing it for us." He looks out the window, back at the fading shape of the Vindicator. There. Doing it for them, the machine swarm had never lost a battle. For 100 years, it crushed every empire it touched. Its fleets of black, crawling ships tore through defenses, consuming worlds, leaving nothing alive. They never stopped. Never surrendered until today. Because today, they met the humans. The outer colony of Virelnine hung silent in space. Once a thriving world of trade and technology, now a graveyard. Machine swarm drones drifted through its orbit like carrion feeders. Dozens of black warships circled the planet, draining it of resources. The swarm moved with machine precision. No emotion, no mercy. Then, a single human warship dropped out of hyperspace. The Vindicator, to the swarm, it looked like nothing. One ship. No fleet. No threat. They scanned it. They found nothing familiar. No known signatures. No weakness. The swarm processed the data. Response: destroy. 1,000 black swarm ships broke formation and charged the human vessel. On the bridge of the Vindicator, Captain Darius Rourke stood, arms folded, eyes calm. Fire. Fire, the humans unleashed. Hell, the first strike wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. A silent ripple of energy surged from the Vindicator's hull. Invisible to the eye, detectable by standard scanners, it hit the first wave of swarm ships, and the machines stopped mid-flight. Mid-attack, their systems froze. Engines died. They dropped like stones. Ral, watching from the Orion envoy ship nearby, gasped. What did they just do? Kale leaned forward. They shut them down. Rourke's voice came over the shared comm channel. Cold, EMP pulse. Swarm runs on hive logic. Disrupt the link. You kill the mind. Ral stared at Kale. They never taught us that. We've been fighting them wrong this whole time. Kale whispered. That's why they never lost. Until now. Oh, but the battle wasn't over. The swarm adapted fast. The second wave came. Upgraded drones, shielded against EMP attacks. They surged toward the Vindicator, weapons blazing. Rourke didn't flinch. Released the Helldivers. The ship's belly opened. Dozens of human assault craft dropped into the black void, sleek. Dark fighters bristling with railguns and plasma blades. They moved faster than anything the Orion fleets had ever seen. Helldivers cut through the swarm. Ships like wolves among sheep. Ral watched in awe. They're not just fighting, they're hunting. Kale nodded slowly. This is human warfare. On board the Vindicator, Rourke observed the battle calmly. His second in command, Vega, stood beside him. They're adapting faster, Vega noted. We'll need full assault authorization. Rourke gave a slight nod. Do it. A single command went out to the Helldivers. The human assault craft changed formation, no longer avoiding fire. They plunged straight through swarm lines. Exploding enemy ships from the inside, self-destruct strikes, suicide missions. Except the human pilots ejected at the last second, retrieved by micro-drones before death, controlled chaos, calculated madness. The swarm hesitated. For the first time in its existence, hesitated. Back on the Orion envoy ship, Kale shook his head. In disbelief, Ral whispered, they fight like they don't care if they live. Kale replied, because they care more about winning. The swarm sent in its heavy carriers, titanic vessels, the size of moons. They opened fire with planet-buster cannons. Rourke smiled. Finally, he turned to Vega. Let's introduce them to the Excalibur. From behind the Vindicator, a second human ship decloaked. It wasn't sleek. It wasn't pretty. It was massive, brutal, covered in weapons. The Excalibur, a dreadnought-class warship from Earth's dark history, it charged. Its main cannon. The lights dimmed across its hull. Vega spoke softly, firing in 3, 2, 1. A single beam of concentrated antimatter sliced across space. It hit the swarm, carrier dead center, and split it in half. Kale's jaw dropped. Ral whispered we could never build that. Kale replied, no, and that's why we needed them. Swarm fleet broke formation. They retreated for the first time in history. The swarm ran. Rourke stood with Kale and Rail. Kale said, you saved the colony. Rourke turned to him. No, we tested them. The colony was already dead. Kale flinched. You used it as bait. Rourke's eyes stayed hard. Fight wars to win. Commander, not to play hero. Ral shook his head. You're monsters. Rourke finally gave a cold smile. That's why you called us. Kale met his gaze. You don't care about saving us. You care about proving a point. Rourke nodded. Once. And the point is, this galaxy belongs to the strong. High Elder Sinira listened in horror as the battle reports came in. Zur said quietly, They crushed the swarm's vanguard. Alone, Sinira whispered. At what cost? Zur gave a grim smile. Does it matter? Sinira stared into. The distance? They're not saving us. They're taking over. Hundreds of human ships to cloak across the Orion borders. Warriors from every hidden colony, silent, ready, watching. Rourke's voice echoes over a private human channel. Phase 1 complete. Prepare for total engagement. The galaxy will never be the same. The Orion Pact's war room fell silent. On the giant holoscreen floated a single message, sent from the humans. Phase 1 complete. Awaiting payment. Hi! Elder Sinira read it aloud. Her voice shook. Awaiting payment. Around her, leaders of 100 worlds stood frozen. Zer whispered, They won't help again, unless we pay. Sinira clenched her fists. And what is their price? A second message appeared. Control of all military operations, immediate. Surrender of key Orion fleets, full access to galactic trade routes. The leaders erupted in shouts. Outrageous. Outrageous. They're demanding control of our armies. We replaced the swarm with human overlords. Sinira stared at the message and said nothing, because deep down, she knew this was the deal they made the moment they called the humans. The leaders argued for hours. Some shouted for rebellion. Others warned of certain doom without human help. Zur finally slammed his staff. Down. Enough. You saw them crush the swarm. You saw them turn back the invasion with 2 ships. We need them. Sinira looked across the room. What we need, she said slowly, is to survive. And to survive, we must pay the price. A grim silence followed. The council voted. The decision was made. Kale and Ral stood on the bridge of the Orion flagship. Virel's honor in front of them. Captain Darius Rourke. Behind him, ranks of human marines in black armor. Kale tried to keep his voice calm. By order of the Orion High Council, we grant operational command of the fleet. To you. Handed over the command token, Rourke took it with a nod. Ral whispered, Is this a mistake? Kale whispered back, Does it matter? The humans wasted no time within hours. They reorganized Orion fleets under a new command structure, Human Command. Orion admirals protested. Some refused orders. The humans replaced them, some with Orion captains loyal to the humans, others with human commanders. No debates. No votes. Only action. Ral watched the shift with growing dread. They're not our allies, he said to Kale. They're conquerors. Kale replied softly, They're what we made them. Rourke stood before a massive 3D galactic map. Beside him, commanders from every hidden human fleet, he spoke without raising his voice. Our new Orion allies will serve as the front lines. Our fleets remain in reserve. For strategic strikes? Lieutenant Vega asked. And if the Orions refuse? Rourke's expression didn't change. They won't. They understand the cost of disobedience. He tapped the table. Phase 2 begins now. Sinira sat alone, watching the reports. Human-led fleet smashing swarm forces. Orion ships used as shields. Thrown into the worst battles. Casualties. Rising. A soft voice spoke behind her. You don't like how we fight? She turned. Rourke stood at the chamber door. She met his eyes. I don't like being ruled. Rourke stepped closer. Then you shouldn't have called us. Sinira stood. We needed help, not new masters. Rourke gave a cold smile. You called monsters to fight monsters? What did you expect? She whispered. I expected you to save us. His eyes hardened. I will. But the galaxy you knew is gone. He turned to leave. And what's next? On the far edge of the Orion frontier, swarm command nodes pulsed with dark energy. Data flowed. Calculations ran. They had faced defeat, and now they adapted. New units born in the heart of their forge worlds, stronger, smarter, immune to human tactics. Swarm. Directive. Eradicate humanity first. Kale flew alongside Rourke aboard the assault ship Helion. They watched as Orion Forces charged into battle. Taking heavy losses, Rourke remained calm. Kale finally spoke. "You're using us as cannon fodder," Rourke replied. "You wanted to survive? This is how survival works." Kale clenched his fists. "You think we'll follow you forever?" Rourke turned to him. "You'll follow us as long as you're afraid of the swarm. Or of us." Kale stared at him. "Is there a difference?" Rourke didn't answer. Back on the Orion capital world, Zer gathered a secret council of Orion admirals. "We've handed them everything now. We take it back." They plotted a silent uprising. Take back control. Let's push the humans out. But they underestimated one thing. The humans already knew, before the rebellion began. Human Marines stormed Zer's chambers. They dragged him before Rourke. "You thought we didn't see this coming?" Rourke asked coldly. Zer spat. "We'll never bow to you." Rourke pulled a pistol and shot him without a word. Sonera stood over Zer's body. Kale and Rael watched in silence. Sonera whispered, "We've lost everything." Kale shook his head. "Not everything." He looked at Rourke, standing at the chamber door. "We still have them. We still have a war to win." Rael whispered, "At what cost?" Kale whispered back, "We'll know when it's over." On the edge of human space, Swarm launched a brutal surprise assault. They bypassed Orion lines, targeting human command ships directly. For the first time, human ships fell in large numbers. On board the Vindicator, alarms blared. Vega shouted, "They're adapting. They've learned our tactics." Rourke stood tall. "Good." Vega blinked. "Good." Rourke smiled darkly. "Because that means they're finally worth killing." They thought the swarm couldn't adapt. They thought human weapons would always win. They thought wrong. On the outer rim of Orion space, human dreadnought, the Savroon exploded in a silent bloom of fire. Not from a direct hit, not from a boarding attack, but from a virus. A swarm-born digital parasite slipped through its defenses, turned its systems against itself, and ripped it apart from the inside. For the first time, humans were losing ships, and the swarm wasn't stopping. The human command fleet had been an iron wall for weeks, unbreakable, untouchable. Now, cracks appeared. On board the human command carrier Aegis Prime, alarms blared. Lieutenant Vega stared at the tactical board. Red icons flared everywhere. Swarm infiltration confirmed across 3 sectors. 4 human fleets. Lost contact. Rourke stood at the center, silent, watching the war map shift. Kale and Rael stood beside him. Stunned, Rael whispered, "How did they get through your firewalls?" Vega answered, grim, "They didn't break through. They evolved past them." Kale asked sharply, "Can we adapt faster?" Rourke's eyes narrowed. "We will." In the command chamber, Rourke gathered human captains and Orion commanders. "Forget everything you know," Rourke ordered.
The swarm changed the rules, so will we.
Kale leaned in.
"You have a plan?"
Rourke looked him dead in the eye. "Yes. We take the fight to their core." Rael gasped. "You mean attack their home systems?" Vega added, "We don't even know where they are." Rourke gave a thin smile. "We do now." He turned the holomap, highlighting a dark region of space labeled the Dead Zone. Recon probes returned this morning. Massive energy readings. Swarm homeworld confirmed. The chamber fell silent. Kale whispered, "That's suicide," Rourke answered flatly. "No, that's war. The largest joint human Orion fleet ever assembled, prepared to leave hyperspace dock. Human dreadnoughts. Orion capital ships." Thousands of strike craft RAL watched from the viewing deck. "They're going all in." Calais stood beside him. "Win or die." The fleet surged into hyperspace. Destination, the Dead Zone. As the joint fleet left, the swarm struck. They bypassed the front lines, slamming into undefended Orion worlds. No mercy. No warning. Billions dead within hours. Snera stood in the Orion Capital command room, watching helplessly. "We sent our defenders away," she whispered. Her advisor said, "We trusted the humans to protect us." She whispered back, "And they left us exposed." The joint fleet dropped into real space. The Dead Zone. Dead. was a graveyard of shattered moons and burning stars, and at its heart, the swarm homeworld, a living planet pulsing with dark energy. Surrounded by endless swarm fleets, Rao whispered, "We're dead." Rourke stood at the front of the bridge, eyes like steel. Not yet. The swarm struck first hordes of black warships descending like a tidal wave. Human railguns fired. Orion plasma cannons roared. The sky lit with fire and death. Ships on both sides exploded by the hundreds. But the humans pressed forward straight at the heart of the swarm armada. Kale shouted, "They'll tear us apart." Rourke replied, "Not before we hit the core." Rao's fighter squadron dived into the thickest of the swarm lines. He flew like a man possessed, dodging, weaving, firing until his guns overheated. One by one, his wingman fell. Rao screamed into, "The Cums, we're getting slaughtered." Kale's voice crackled back, "Hold the line, we need you." Rao clenched his teeth. "If this is how I die, so be it." On board the Vindicator, Rourke activated a hidden system. Vega stared in shock. "Sir, that's a Nova device." Rourke nodded. "We take the core, or we burn the system." Kale shouted, "You can. That'll wipe out everything, including us." Rourke answered coldly. "Then we make sure we win first." With death behind them, and the swarm ahead, the joint fleet rammed straight into the core fleet. Orion ships shielded human dreadnoughts. Human marines boarded. Swarm carriers. Rao led his fighters into the breach. Kale fired broadside cannons until his ship cracked apart. Vega activated the Nova countdown. The sky turned white with fire. The swarm homeworld cracked open Nova fire, ripping through its core. Thousands of swarm ships shut down at once. Hive mind severed. On the bridge of the Ace Vindicator, Rourke watched as enemy ships fell from the sky. Kale slumped into a chair. "We did it." Rao's voice came over. "Is it over?" Rourke stared at the burning world. For now, of the thousands of ships sent, less than a third survived. Orion's space lay in ruins. Billions dead. Cities lost. Worlds burned. Synira addressed her people in a shaky voice. "The war is over." But even she didn't believe it. In a private message to all human commanders, Rourke gave one last order. "The swarm will return, and when they do, we will own this galaxy. Prepare for Phase 3. In the dark reaches beyond even human sensors, a new swarm queen awoke. Her eyes glowed with violent intelligence. Humanity, worthy prey. The war was over. The swarm's homeworld burned. The galaxy was quiet, but on the Orion capital world, the silence felt heavier than war. High Elder Synira stood before the Grand Council. Behind her, human marines in full combat gear. Beside her, Captain Rourke. The humans had saved them, and now they demanded obedience. Rourke's voice echoed in the council chamber. "The Orion Pact is no more. From this moment, you serve under united human command. Resistance will be met with force." The elders sat frozen. Rao whispered, "They saved us, only to enslave us." Kale's fists clenched, and in his heart, a question burned. Were they allies or slaves? The humans didn't celebrate victory. They moved in swift and brutal. Orion military. Bases were taken over. Human commanders installed their own laws. Orbital fleets patrolled once independent worlds, and one by one, Orion leaders disappeared, arrested, vanished. Silenced, Kale watched it unfold with growing horror. "We gave them power to save us," he whispered to Rao. "And now we're their prisoners." Rao nodded grimly. "They didn't conquer us with weapons. They conquered us with fear." On the streets of Orion Prime, citizens marched under the watch of human marines. New laws posted in every district. Curfew at sunset. All weapons surrendered. No gatherings without human authorization. Synira walked the silent streets. Orion faces stared with blank fear. She whispered to herself, "We won the war and lost our freedom." Human patrol passed by. No words. No mercy. Kale stormed into the command chamber of the Vindicator. Rourke stood alone, studying a galactic map. Kale spat. "This wasn't the deal. You were supposed to save us, not own us. Rourke didn't even look at him. I saved you. From extinction? Cale stepped closer. And now you're the threat we needed saving from. Rourke turned, his face stone. I gave your people peace. Order. Safety. You should thank me. Cale's hand hovered near his sidearm. Rourke stared him down. Try it, and watch how fast your world burns. Cale's hand dropped. His heart burned with silent rage. In a hidden underground chamber, Ral met with Synira and surviving Orion commanders. We need a resistance, Ral said quietly. A real one, Synira shook her head. Open rebellion is suicide, Ral met her eyes. Then we don't rebel, yet we learn. We wait. We fight. When they least expect it. Cale stepped from the shadows. Count me in. On a remote moon, Rourke met with his top human generals. Vega asked, Do we really need to keep the Orions alive? Rourke answered, cold as steel. For now, they're useful, as soldiers, as workers, as bait. The others nodded. Rourke looked out at the stars. When the swarm returns, we'll need every pawn on the board. Human fleets expanded patrols across the galaxy. Non-Orion worlds fell under human control. Trade routes seized. Governments toppled. The humans built an empire, all in the name of peace. And every world learned one lesson. The humans don't ask. They take. Synira sent a secret message to Cale and Ral. The humans have overreached. The swarm isn't dead. And when they return, the humans will fall. In the dark of night. Cale stood atop the Orion High Tower. The city glowed with human warships overhead. Ral stepped beside him. What happens when the swarm comes back? Cale answered softly. We save the galaxy from both monsters. Asked, You mean the swarm and the humans? Cale nodded. All of them. Deep in the unknown sectors. The new swarm queen watched human expansion on her hive monitors. She tilted her head. Humanity. A greater threat than I imagined. She smiled with razor teeth. Perfect. The swarm began evolving. Again, Rourke recorded a message in his private quarters. Phase 3. Galactic order is proceeding. Swarm threat. Reduced. Orion resistance. Manageable. Humanity will rule this galaxy. Or die trying. Outside his window. Outside his window, a black swarm ship drifted unseen in the void, on the edge of known space. The stars went dark. An entire human recon fleet vanished without a trace. No distress calls. No wreckage. Just silence in the Orion border systems. Strange signals whispered through the void. Code patterns the humans couldn't crack. Rourke ordered scans. Patrols. Raids. But every ship sent into the shadows never came back. And then human battlecruiser drifted into Orion space. Dead, its crew gone, its hull marked with a single burning symbol. Not swarm. Something worse evolved. The humans thought they knew. The swarm. Machines. Hive mind. Predictable, but the enemy had changed, adapted, and now they hunted the hunters. On board the Vindicator, Vega burst into the command chamber. Sir, at the recovered ship, it's not just dead. Rourke turned, eyes cold. What is it? Vega swallowed. It's alive. Rourke narrowed his eyes. Explain. Vega pulled up footage. Deep within the dead cruiser's hull, a black mass pulsed. Breathing. Cale stared at the screen. That's not possible. Ral whispered. The swarm. Learned how to infect ships. As the crew investigated, the ship's comes crackled to life on their own. A voice spoke, chilling, metallic, disturbingly human. We are the swarm. We are beyond machine. We are your future. The comes went dead. Rourke stared at the silent speaker. They're taunting us, Cale muttered, or warning us. On the outskirts of Orion space, human fleet moved to intercept a swarm vessel. It wasn't a fleet, it was one ship, but it tore through the human armada in minutes. Its weapons organic energy beams. Its armor adaptive, self-healing. Ral watched. The feed in horror. That's not the swarm. That's something else. Kale whispered. They've evolved. Rourke called an emergency war council. Top human admirals, Orion commanders. All forces pulled back, Rourke ordered. Kale stood. Up. We can't outrun this thing, Rourke answered. We're not running. We're setting a trap. He pulled up a tactical map end, abandoned star system filled with old human defense platforms. We lure them in. We hit them with everything we've got. Raoul frowned. And if that fails? Rourke met his eyes. Then we all die together. Joint Fleet waited in the shadow of a dying star. Massive plasma cannons charged. Nova mines floated in the void, and then the evolved swarm ship arrived. Alone, it came straight at them and afraid. The humans opened fire. Everything they had, direct. Hits. The ship shrugged them off. And kept coming, Vega shouted. It's not slowing down, Rourke gave a single command. Fire the Nova. The Nova device detonated. Artificial star. Exploding point dash blank. The swarm ship vanished in fire. The fleet cheered. Kale whispered. We did it, but out of the smoke, ship emerged, untouched. And then it spoke. Thank you for the test.
Oh, we know your limits.
It vanished into hyperspace. On the command deck, silence hung heavy. Raoul whispered, We're finished. Rourke clenched his fists. No, this isn't over, Kale snapped. That thing just tanked a star. Rourke stared out at the void. Then we hit it with something bigger. In a classified human archive, Rourke unlocked a forbidden file. Project Oblivion. Vega gasped. Sir, that's not a weapon. It's a planet killer. Rourke nodded slowly. It's all we've got left. Kale met with Raoul and Synira in secret. They're going to use a super weapon. One that could wipe out star systems, Synira whispered. They'll destroy us all. Raoul asked. What choice do we have? Kale clenched his jaw. Have to stop the humans, before they stop everything else. In a dark hive beyond the stars, the new swarm queen smiled. The humans panic. The Orions doubt. The galaxy fractures. She leaned closer to her viewing pool. Perfect. She spread her claws. Time to begin. The final phase. On a broadcast to every world, Rourke declared, we stand at the edge of extinction. Join humanity or be swept aside. The swarm will fall, even if we burn the galaxy to do it. The message ended. Kale watched from the shadows and whispered, Not if we stop you first.